So A, B, and C cannot be fractions or decimals. So we'll talk about how to clear that. Emma, go ahead. Okay. A must be non-negative. So A must be greater than or equal to 0. This does not include B and C. A is the only one that needs to be not negative. So A is the number in front of X, B is the number in front of Y, and C is the number on the opposite side of the equal sign. So A is the only one that cannot be negative. And then it says A, B, and C cannot have a common factor. So let's talk about what that means. What is the common factor of 2, 4, and 6? What? Yeah, what's the common factor of 2, 4, and 6? What goes into 2, 4, and 6?
2, 1.
So the common factor would be 2. So you can divide everything by 2. What is the common factor of 5, 10, and 50? So if there's a common factor, you must divide it out. So all three numbers have a common factor. You must divide it out. So must divide each number by the common factor. All right, questions so far before we get into some examples here?
Clear. What?
Head down.
Miss ready? Can I go sit?
Yes. Yeah, I don't know. Not in the middle of notes. It can't be happening in notes. You can wait.
Alright, here for 2 days.
Pretty sure you would not be here right now if you were holding it in for 2 days.
I can't feel my right hand.
All right. Please pay attention. I cannot keep doing this with you guys. I would have hoped that your last test grades would have spurred you guys to think maybe I should be paying attention during notes a little bit better and not being so distracted. Now, granted, some of you did fine, but others of you did not. Okay? You're done with first quarter of your freshman year. It's different than middle school. In middle school, if you failed every class, you still moved on. You still would have made it to high school. If you fail this class, you will be in summer school or retaking it next year. Do you understand me? You don't want to retake it next year. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just trying to be real with you guys. Do you understand that? So please start paying attention. Okay, when you're ready, go ahead and flip to the next page so I know that you're there. All right. That doesn't mean you need to have a side conversation. So, standard form means that your x's and y's are on the same side. Remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c, and we have some rules we have to follow too. So, x and y are on the same side. That's our goal. All right, so what do you have to do with example 1 to get it into standard form? RC, what would you have to do with example 1 to get it into standard form? No, that's in slope-intercept form. Standard form means x and y are on the same side.
You would add 2x.
So again, this is slope-intercept form. It wants standard form. So that's 2x plus y equals 4. There are 3 things you need to check for. There are 3 things you need to check for. The first thing is, are there any fractions or decimals?
No.
So we said no, right? Okay. Is A, which is the number in front of x, negative. Okay, so we're good there. We'll talk about each of those cases throughout the notes today. Are there any common factors?
Yes.
Well, but there's a 1 in front of x, or y, I mean. So, is there a common factor of 2, 1, and 4? I'm taking the numbers in front. 2, 1, and 4. Is there a common factor?
Yes. 1. No.
No.
Yes.
If 1 is the common factor, then there's no common factors. So this one is in standard form because you've been able to answer no to each one of those questions. We'll talk about each of these situations throughout the period.
So that's 2, 1, 4.
2, 1, and 4. Those are just the numbers. So 2 is the number in front of x, 1 is the number in front of y, and 4 is the number like on the outside there. Okay. Connor, get example 2 into standard form. What do we have to do? Three is positive. You don't want to add it. Subtract 3x on both sides. And then we have to check it. So we're going to check our 3 things.
Yes.
Are there any fractions or decimals?
No.
Minus 3x.
You need to put x first. It's ax plus by equals c. Is a negative?
Yes.
How could we make a not negative? Kaylee?
Divided by negative 1.
Divide every piece by negative 1. Emma, if you want to fill up your bottle, you can. Okay, divide every piece by negative 1. So we divide every piece by negative 1 because we had to say yes there, which means you basically just switch all the signs. Good, I'm glad that you think this is easy. Common factors. Are there any common factors? Our numbers are 3, negative 1, and 12.
9.
So the answer is no, so we can't do anything there. So are there any questions so far with that first slide?
9.
Okay, get that copy down. I see some of you still writing. If questions come up while you're copying it down, please let me know. Raise your hand. Can I give you a pencil or like something else to be writing with here?
What, he likes the super sparkly crayons.
Yes.
He likes the super sparkly crayon.
Found it in Spanish and it looked pretty cool. So.
All right, next problem there. It says write the equation in standard form. Before we do that, what form are these two lines in? What form is this called? Emma. It is point slope. So to be able to get it to standard form, our goal is to get all the x's and the y's to the same side. So Grace, what would you do first to get this into standard form?
Distribute
Again, we're trying to get x's and y's to the same side, Grace. So what would you do next? Yep, I would do the same thing. So the easiest thing to do is go from point slope into slope intercept, and then go ahead and change that slope intercept into standard form there, Grace. What would you do? You've got to get x and y to the same side. So you want to move that x over to the same side. So how can you move negative 2x to the other side? Inverse of subtraction is? So you're going to add 2x. Okay, so then you're going to check it. Fractions or decimals?
No.
A negative?
No.
Common factor?
No.
Yeah, but there's a 1 in front of the y. Does 2 go into 1? No, we have 2, 1, and 18. Do you see that? So do you see how we have 2, 1, and 18? So that's why that's a no. So that's a good question. I'm glad that you asked that, okay? Very common mistake that you guys make. All right, questions there. Denari, what would you do to get example 4 into slope-intercept form? Remember, you guys have calculators that can do fractions for you if you're terrible at adding fractions together.
Somebody stole my gun.
Well, that's not good. All right, Tenari, what would you do now? Yep, I would get it all into slope-intercept form. So if you were to do this in your calculator, you would do -1 ABC4 minus 3. So you might want to take your calculator out because on your homework you will have fractions sometimes.
I must use my brain.
Try it real quick and see if you get -13/4. Try it real quick and see if you get -13/4. As a reminder, you're in math class, so calculators should be out when you get in here. Yeah.
Why is there a decimal?
Huh? They're all gone. Did somebody already borrow one of my calculators? Perfect.
Can I borrow?
Yay. Just put it back at the end of the hour. Did you guys get -13/4?
Oh wait, hold up.
All right. What? You would do -1 ABC4 minus 3. Do you get -13/4?
It says 3. And it says
So -3 1/4, if you convert, that would be -13.
It says 11.
Okay. Shh. Please stop talking.
I think I did that wrong.
That's because you did minus a negative instead of just doing -3.
Oh. Oh, okay.
All right. This still isn't in standard form, though, Tenari. What do you have to do now?
Does that say -13/4?
Yes, it does. Okay, I'm going to wait again because you guys are starting to talk a lot again. Okay, are there any fractions or decimals?
Yeah.
How can I get rid of that fraction? What can I do? The denominator is 4, so we can multiply every piece by. You could multiply by -4 to get rid of that. I'm just showing it in steps, just because it's the first time. So that's -1x plus 4y equals -13. Yes, you could multiply. Yes. Okay, is a negative?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is that a check you're doing?
I just check each of the things.
So, are you gonna have to do it?
I mean, you don't have to write that stuff out. I write it out in the notes so you know this is what you should be going through in your head. Does that make sense? If I just say it verbally, most of you guys will probably forget that I even said the words. So that's why I try to write it down too. So A is negative. What can you do?
Divide by everything.
So we divide every piece by -1, and we get x minus 4y equals 13. How about any common factors?
No.
So what did some of you say you should have multiplied by at the beginning? What?
Negative.
So you can do these two steps at once. All right? If you're starting to notice that, you can multiply by a negative denominator. All right? So this is new. Guys, this is new to you. Where are you lost? What questions do you have for me? What do you need me to explain differently? How are we doing, I guess? Are we doing okay so far?
Are you?
I'm doing good.
B N.
All right. So this one says, write the equation in standard form. The line that contains the points 3, -1 and 2, -3. First of all, are either of these points the y-intercept?
No.
No. So can we go directly into slope-intercept form?
No.
Can you go directly into standard form?
No.
What form do you have to use?
Point slope.
Point slope. So we find the slope. So I do -3 minus a -1 over 2 minus 3. You can stack the points if you're more comfortable doing that. So I get a slope of 2. Okay, so we start with point slope. That's the best form to start in is point slope. What is my point slope form equation? So Colin, which point do you want to use? 3, -1 or 2, -3?
3 -1.
Okay, put that in point slope for me.
Oh, alright. Okay, so it's going to be like the equation?
Yep,
Okay, so y plus 1
good. Equals?
equals, let's see, I'm going to do that. Okay, 2x, no, it would just be 2 in parentheses x minus 3.
Perfect. So that is point slope.
You did it.
So the next step is to get this into slope-intercept form. So Brian, what would you do to get that into slope-intercept form? Think about it. What would you do to get that into y equals mx plus b? What could you do? Distribute. Very good. Okay. Y equals mx plus b is what you're trying to get to, Brian. What do you still have to do? See, you didn't forget. You can do it.
Good job, bro.
So that's slope-intercept.
Believe in you,
But they don't want us in slope-intercept. It wants us to get it into...
point standard.
So, Josh, what would I have to do now to get this into standard form?
I'll subtract 2x.
Good. But the problem is we have to go through our checklist before we determine if it's standard form. So, are there any fractions?
No.
No. Is A negative?
Yes.
Yes.
So what do we have to do?
By negative.
But that thing.
Not by -2, but by
1.
-1. Are there any common factors?
No.
So now you're in standard form. So if you're given 2 points, you can get all 3 forms. You start in point slope. So if you're going to write equations in all 3 forms, you're probably going to start in point slope, go to standard, from point slope to slope intercept to standard.
So you always gonna want it to be positive?
The A value, the number in front of X, always has to be positive. Now, it doesn't matter about the number in front of Y or the C value. Yeah.
Oh, no number.
Okay, so what's that next question there? It says, explain why 5x plus 10y equals 25 is not in standard form. Why is that not in standard form, Jordan?
Because it has common, what would they call it?
Common factor of what? Of what?
5.
So it is a common factor of 5, so we'd have to divide everything by...
This stuff's actually kind of easy.
So now it is in standard form.
You're gonna jinx us. Oh, jinx us.
All right, questions on that one? Questions on that one?
Nope.
Do we have questions so far?
No.
All right, so the next one is function notation. It says write the equation in standard form of f of 4 equals 1 and f of 10 equals 3. Jayla, what does that mean? What does f of 4 equals 1 mean? Think about what it meant. We talked about it on Friday. Remember the input-output relationship? What is x? And y is? Yeah, it creates an ordered pair. So this is 4, 1. And what's the other one, Jayla?
10, 3.
Good. That input-output relationship. So, first of all, you have to check. Can you go into slope-intercept form right away?
No.
No, you do not have a y-intercept, so we need to find the slope and use point-slope form. So that's 3 minus 1 over 10 minus 4, which is 2 over 6, which is 1 over 3. Cassie, what would that be in point slope form? So first choose which point you want to use. Do you want to use 4, 1 or 10, 3? Okay, put that in point slope form for me. Girls. So she did a good job of getting that into point slope. So now we have to get that into slope intercept because we go through point slope to get to slope intercept to get to standard form. So Mike, what would you do to get that into slope intercept? Y equals mx plus b. Starts with a D. There you go. So we distribute 1/3 and we get negative 4 over 3. Again, your calculators might come in handy if you do 1 ABC3 times negative 4. In your calculators, it should give you negative 4 over 3. Then we add 1, and so you can do negative 4 ABC3 plus 1. I think it's negative 1/3, right?
Yeah.
So that's slope intercept. So we go from point slope to slope intercept, and then we go to standard from there. So Miguel, what would I do to get this into standard form? There's no half anywhere. You have to get x to the other side. It's 1/3 x. So what do you have to do with that? It is positive, so you don't want to add it. So we subtract 1/3 x on both sides. And we can't do it with y because they're not like terms. Okay, so we go through our checklist to determine if it's actually in standard form. Is there any fractions or decimals?
Yes.
Yes, so what are we going to have to multiply by?
3.
3 is a negative.
Yes.
So what can we multiply instead of just 3?
Negative 3.
Negative 3. So we're going to start there. We're going to multiply every piece by negative 3 to get rid of that fraction and that negative a value. Remember, the number in front of y and that constant term can be negative. That does not matter. Are there any common factors?
No.
Nope. So you have your standard form.
Right there.
All right, write the equation in standard form. Before we do this, first things first, please listen to me. In standard form, the x-intercept is not the number in front of x, and the y-intercept is not the number in front of y. You cannot look at a graph and know exactly what your standard form equation is. You're either going to have to start in point-slope form or start in slope-intercept form. But kids always take the y-intercept and put it in front of x, and the x-intercept and put it in front of x, or y, whichever way I said that wrong, and then they get their answer. That is not how that works, okay? You're going to have to start in slope-intercept form. So, or point-slope form in this case. So, notice we don't have a y-intercept, but we probably could find it.
Hey, I found it.
Yeah. Found it.
Because it's down 4 over 2, so we could just keep it going, right? Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. So wouldn't you be right up here at a y-intercept?
Yeah.
So is that 6?
Yeah.
So in slope-intercept form, that would be y equals negative 4 over 2 is just negative 2x plus 6. So is that standard form?
No.
No.
My bad.
So we started in slope-intercept. Now we're going to change slope-intercept form into standard. Blaine, what do you have to do to change that to standard form? Okay, then you ask yourself the questions that we've been asking ourselves all day. Is A negative?
No.
Are there fractions or decimals?
No.
Is there any common factors?
Yes.
No.
No.
1 is in front of Y.
No. No.
No. What?
You have to think about what's in front of Y. So this is 2, 1, and 6. Does 2 go into 1? No. So you have to think about what's in front of the Y as well. Okay, questions on that one? Okay, last one here. Write an equation in standard form to model the situation. A barrel of oil is filled at a constant rate of 7.5 gallons per minute. The barrel had 10 gallons before filling began. So, it writes the equation for me. What is the equation of this? Josh.
Y equals 7.5 x plus 10.
Perfect. But it wants it in standard form. So what do I have to do, Justin? Get it in standard form. Okay, it's not in standard form yet. Are there any fractions or decimals?
Yes.
And A is negative. So what do you have to multiply this by to get it so that there's not a decimal? Yeah? 2, because if you do 7.5 plus 7.5, doesn't that make it a whole number all of a sudden?
Yep.
But we don't want to just multiply it by 2. We want to multiply it by?
Negative.
Because A is negative. It's okay if Y is negative or the constant is negative. It's just the A value there. So 7.5 times 2 is 15. Minus 2Y equals negative 20. Are there any common factors there?
No.
No.
Nope.
Almost, but no.
So there you go. That is standard form. Go, Riley, go.